Hello and welcome to another episode of the BOU Connects podcast. Here, we break down the complex world of economics, finances, and central banking into easy to digest, relatable conversations. My name is Pumla Nabachwa and I'm your host. It's the month of Valentine's, and today we are combining the two most sought after things in the world: love and money. Studies have shown that money is one of the leading causes of stress in relationships, and this is because couples are not having frequent, open, and honest conversations about finances, from deciding who pays for what, to how much are we going to save, to where are we going to invest, to what quality of education are our children going to have. And the black tax one, how much of our income are we spending on extended family? So joining us for this not so romantic and yet important conversation is Mr. Robert Owagonza. He's a certified master financial literacy trainer here at Bank of Uganda. It's really good to see you here.
It's a pleasure featuring in this very important episode.
Yeah, you look lovely in a red bow tie. You've matched the energy.
It's the season, Valentine's season.
Yeah, it's
so
a Valentine's season.
Yes, sure.
So can we dive into, are you ready to talk love and money?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Because that is part of life, and therefore I'm more than ready to talk about it.
Okay. So let's just start with an easy one.
Yeah.
In your opinion or experience, is it easier to manage a household budget or getting your wife or spouse or partner to follow it?
Yeah, thank you, Pumla. Now, having a budget is one thing, but getting your spouse to actually follow that budget is another.
Yeah.
It is certainly not an easy one, but it takes the two parties involved, that is the couple, to actually sit together and have that conversation regarding the budget with the view of convincing the other party to actually follow that budget. And where necessary, there could be a bit of compromise just to make sure that the budget is followed.
Yeah, that word compromise. I find that it managed to seep through every part of conversations regarding relationships.
Yes, it does, because just imagine, Pumala, having two adults together and you're discussing budget, and some people are not so much well versed with the budget. Others, their budget personality is something that needs to be worked on.
True.
So the two have to find a way of compromising so that ultimately they can have a good relationship based on very strong money foundation.
Okay. Another word I hear a lot that's used in relationships is communication.
Yes, communication.
Communication.
Very, very important.
Yes, communication.
Very important. Because you've had in relationships someone say, no, he doesn't call me, so I also gave up. So the relationship just dies like that. And before you know it, where is your spouse? We separated. Why? Communication. It is even worse when it comes to money. And there is no communication. So I suspect he gets a lot of money, but I don't get to know what it does, you know, so that could easily ruin the relationship.
It's good you brought in money, because why would you say that money or financial communication is very important in relationships? And maybe if you can share with us a few tips, or how would you advise couples to start and continue engaging in such conversations?
Thank you. You see, two people cannot move together unless they have agreed, and that is well captured in the Bible in Amos 3. So therefore, it means that for anything to happen, for decisions, financial decisions to be made, it's extremely important for the couple to sit together and have an honest conversation concerning this money, because ranging from the amount of money the couple earns, you'd realize that the spouse earns a different amount of money, the husband earns a different one, and there are different expenses that have to be offset within the family. So without that conversation, it would be very, very hard to actually have that family or couple move together. Instead, there could be suspicion. He gets money and takes it to other wives or women. Or she gets money and uses it to support the family back home. So before you know it, again, the family, the couple starts struggling in the relationship simply because there is no that conversation. So it's very important to have that communication on financial matters as a couple, to identify the kind of different sources of income, to harmonize on issues of savings, issues of borrowing or debt where necessary, because the money we earn may not be enough, may need to top up. But how much do we borrow? What do we put as security or collateral? Is it our very own house? So we find another collateral. So without conversation, that communication, all that cannot actually happen. So we strongly encourage couples to sit on a round table, have that honest conversation, communication as a couple, because they know themselves best. They know their strength, financial strength. They also know their weaknesses. So that way they will be able to harmonize and be able to move together as a couple and minimize any possible stress that comes with without working together as a couple or having that conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up the part of collateral.
Yeah, sure.
I actually know of a family.
Yes.
Where the lady in the house, the wife got home one time and found these bailiffs at home, and she had no idea that her husband had put their house up for collateral.
Yes.
This lady went on as far as to even say that she didn't even know that her husband had accumulated so much debt.
Yes.
And I used to think maybe it's something that we need to dig into. You know how, like for example, at Bank of Uganda, we are on many financial institutions. We are offered facilities where we can borrow money at certain rates, at staff rates, but you're not allowed to borrow that money unless you have a signature of your spouse. You have to have your spouse's consent.
Absolutely.
So this lady was so confused about how her partner or her husband had accumulated so much debt. And I found it strange as well, because I understand the principle of having, because by the time a measure exists to ensure that we are signing spousal consent, it means that there is a vice. There is a vice that exists within our fabric of households, where people just go and borrow money and forget that when you come together as a union, now your finances, it's for both of us. So whatever debt you take, whatever assets, whatever liabilities, I am also part and parcel of it. Yeah. So, but how would you advise couples to start these conversations or maintain them? Because remember what you said in the beginning, you mentioned, he stopped calling me, so even me, I gave up. That's the attitude of most people.
True.
They can say, I tried to talk, they gave up, or they did not. So how is there any way you can share that maybe people can do more of this?
Yes, there are different ways through which couples can actually have conversation or communication regarding money, and including very important decisions to do with borrowing. First of all, it's very important for the two people involved in the relationship to actually know each other's strengths and weaknesses. You realize that a husband marries a spouse, but then their money personalities are completely different. In fact, to some extent, a bit incompatible.
Usually. literally you marry your opposite.
Yes, and that breeds a lot of suspicion just because of money. So what would be important in this particular case is for the two people involved in that relationship to actually sit, because this is a reality. At the end of the day, it's going to catch up with us. If you're a man and you're forging your wife's signature and getting debt, money, loan, and then ultimately you find that the home is written on bank property, not for sale. That is going to affect the children, it's going to affect the entire family, your image as a household is going to go down. So it's very important as much as possible for the couple. Sit, discuss, identify your priorities. Is your priority borrowing or maybe reducing on the expenses? These are some of the hard decisions we have to reflect on. So it could be better for you to cut back on the expenses as opposed to borrowing. Because even if you borrow more money, if you don't have the financial discipline of using the little that you have very well, then you go back to the same point, and before you know it, you'll be borrowing. You're putting your family at stake, you're putting your house at stake because you put it as a collateral, and nothing is improving. And husbands out there, learn to involve your spouses as much as possible. Because whatever affects one of you ultimately affects both of you. So try as much as possible to involve your spouses in decision making, especially financial decision making. That way, you'll be able to make informed financial decisions as a couple, and you'll have reduced stress, you'll have prosperity and happiness, and become even richer as a couple.
It's good that I have a man here today. When women talk, they say we are talking.
Yes.
But when men advise fellow men, at least something goes through. One of the things that I have found that works is the same way you set a day for, like say, Valentine's is on the 14th of February every year.
Yes.
Christmas is on the 25th of December.
Yes.
Labor Day is on the 8th of May. Is it 1st of
May?
1st of May, Women's Day, 8th of March. If you can, as a family, as a couple, find a day every year or twice a year and say that, come and buy. We are going to discuss finance.
Come what may.
Come what may. You mark it on the calendars. Each of you knows. So that there is no running around after the other. That now I've told you, then they say, oh, we'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk next week. I have found that kind of works.
It can.
You just decide that this is the date we have chosen to talk money in our house.
Because we know seasons when we spend the most. The season of Christmas, the season of Eid, season of Easter, season of going back to school. Which school do we take our kid to? The other person wants a more expensive school, but it's way beyond the income. So it's very important. I agree with you, Pumla, to have that day when you can sit and have that honest conversation and plan for your finances very well.
Okay. I really love your advice as well, where you encourage us to the key is to understand, acknowledge that we have to have the conversation. Now, one of the things I've been hearing recently in the recent past, I used to hear it in outside countries, but recently I'm hearing Ugandans also debate about having joint accounts or separate accounts, or at least a joint account that has all finance, all our expenses, money for expenses in, and then separate joint account. But it shows us that our money conversations are evolving. So what is your advice regarding couples, especially married couples, having joint accounts versus separate accounts?
Thank you, Pumla. Now, having joint accounts versus separate accounts really depends on the couple. It's not a one-size-fits-all like kind of scenario. But of course, it will be more hopeful if the couple considers having joint account, especially when they have common financial objectives to be achieved. For example, they are going to take a loan. They're going to get debt to meet their financial goal, and that loan has to be serviced on a monthly basis, and they agree and say, let's create a joint account, and on a monthly basis, each one of us can deposit money on that account so that the bank can offset the loan installment. In that particular case, it makes a lot of sense. We now have school fees. Just 2 weeks ago, I was talking to an audience and telling them, you know, we knew that come 3rd February, kids would be going back to school. So why didn't we plan? Why didn't we start way earlier and have that joint account as a couple and deposit money on that account within a particular period of time, so that by the time we actually going back to school, we don't have to borrow, commit to put the family house as collateral. So with a joint account, such things can be very well managed, because then you can know whatever goes there cannot leave that account unless the two of us agree.
Okay.
So that is very, very important. But beyond that, on the other hand, it depends on the couple in question, because there are couples whereby, unfortunately, that is the reality, whereby money and love don't mix, especially joint management of funds. So every time that attempts to happen, then before you know it, it's quarrel, no one is seeing each other, and then before you know it, you have more problems than the desired benefits of having a joint account. In that particular case, it would make sense for the couples to have separate accounts, but they should have common objectives they want to achieve as a couple, and commit to say that if it is time for this and this and that, then I'll be able to cater that kind of expense. But if it comes to school fees, or when it comes to, then I can be able to. So you can still have a healthy financial relationship, even with separate accounts. But the most desirable option is to have a joint account, because it builds financial discipline.
You mean mostly for common objectives?
Absolutely.
Common goals, common financial objectives.
Absolutely. We want to plan for retirement together, and we need to be putting some money on that account, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think I've seen places where people decide and say, for the things that we are going to use in the house together.
Yes.
Let's say we know we are going to need to pay school fees. We know we need to buy yaka.
Yeah.
We know we need to pay for Netflix.
Yes.
We know we need to pay for water bills. So you buy groceries every month. So I've known people to make a budget, and everything that you know in advance has to be paid, you put in the joint account.
Yes.
But the joint account usually needs either 1 or 2 signatories. You can decide. We are all putting in, but the person who is handling the payments might be one partner, and that partner has access.
Exactly.
So I think I totally understand that joint accounts. Abroad, I've known families that all their money goes into the joint, but I don't think Africans are there yet. I don't know if Ugandans are there yet.
Ugandans, we still have a long way to go, but we can get there, surely. It takes discipline, it takes commitment to actually have these things happen.
Yeah, we can get there, and I think maybe just to piggyback off that. Sometimes, and I think this comes down to our cultural backgrounds.
Yes.
Because in Africa and in Uganda, the man is still seen as the provider.
Yes.
So provision meaning that they are catering to the higher amount of expenses. So in a typical African or Ugandan household, how would you advise couples to split expenses without arguing? Like how does it turn that you can say, for me, how do you have a conversation that is, for me, my money, I'll pay for groceries, weekly groceries. For you, pay for yaka. Or me, I'm going to pay for rent. You pay for Netflix. Or you pay for school fees. What is your advice regarding conversations about splitting expenses or splitting income?
Yeah, it's extremely important for the couples to devise ways of splitting these expenses, because now when you think about incurring them, just having them incurred by one party or one member of the family or the family head, or it becomes a bit hard. Yeah. So therefore, in that particular case, it would be very important for the couple to reflect on the different kind of expenses that they are likely to incur. In fact, the expenses go beyond the utility costs, electricity, water, to the extent of burial costs, to the extent of weddings, introductions, and culturally, a man is expected to provide.
Yes, culturally.
But how do we harmonize that without necessarily suffocating the financial goals of the couple? So in that particular case, it would be very important for the couple again to identify the different expenses that they are likely to incur as a couple. And then two, once they have identified, agree that different expenses can be met by different spouses. To say, for me, the man, I can cater for, say, school fees. In most cases in Uganda, men seem to be earning higher than women, in most cases, for different reasons. So school fees, really, man, and you can, and rent, because these are big expenses. But again, it depends on the income, because if you have a 70-30 income ratio, whereby the man is earning 70%, the other is earning only 30%, ideally, the expenses should be met in that line as well. So you don't come and expecting the wife to actually pay for school fees when she's earning only 30% of what you're earning. So it is important for them to agree and say, for groceries, I think you can cater for that. When it comes to rent, I can cater for that. Pay for your car, or pay for, the water bills. Yeah, that way it will be easy for the couple to flourish together and attain financial success.
What about if the script was flipped? How would you speak to the ego of a Ugandan man who's the one earning the 30%? Because me, I'm all about fairness. I totally agree with what you said. It's not so much about equality. It is about fairness. It's about teamwork.
Yeah.
If you can sit down and you know that, Robert, me in the home, I earn 30%.
Yes.
My wife earns the 70%.
Yes.
I know for a fact that if you kept those two people in their home together, they would agree that, okay, since me, the woman, I earn 70%, let me take on 70% of the financial burden. The problem comes when that conversation gets onto WhatsApp, when that conversation goes to the bar, when that conversation goes to church, and other men are looking at you.
Yeah.
Then they are like, that woman, she's even the one who wears the trousers of the home. I don't know how we can have better conversations about this, how we can have a shift in our mindset that allows people in a home to work as a team and not so much so rigid to the status quo that no, you're the man, so you handle everything financially, and yet you're married to a woman who is earning much more than you are.
Yeah. I hear you.
To them, they are there.
I hear you, Pumla. Yes, we have those scenarios in Uganda whereby the woman is earning higher or more money than the man. So in that particular case, like you've said, we need to see fairness, we need to see equity, as opposed to equality, as opposed that here we have always done it like this and that, as opposed to the African traditional society, because we have come a long way and we've since left that behind. So we still have to harmonize and agree and say, you see, I'm a man, but you're a woman and you're earn higher than I do. So how about if you paid for school fees? Because my income is little. There is no harm in that. And that's what we encourage couples to do. Because it's that way, you're going to flourish together as a couple. That way, you're even going to have much more love, because you feel that you understand each other peacefully. offset particular costs or expenses based on how much money you earn. Yeah.
I agree. People fear the word patriarchy, but I say that patriarchy is actually more detrimental to men than it is to women. People don't understand it.
Yeah.
The reason why we have much higher suicide rates for men is because of the patriarchy. The patriarchy does not allow men to be vulnerable, to express themselves openly and honestly, to cry, to seek help when they are burdened. But if we allowed and we decided, we are in a union, we are partners. Let us see what, and you see.
In fact, you're one.
We are one.
Yeah,
thank you
you're
very
one.
much. We are one.
You're one.
We are one. And the role of each of us is to support the other.
Exactly.
You know? So if you don't allow me to support you, then what is my role in
Exactly.
life? You know?
Because what happens is that instead people concentrate on other things. Let me also do my things.
Let me do my things quietly.
Let me not declare this amount of money I earned, and that way couples end up having problems. But when they have that good conversation, when they work together, when they understand who they are, what their strengths are, and what their weaknesses are, that way they can be able to meet these expectations without even borrowing, by the way. There's a lot of money sometimes in some of the couples, the households, and that money, if handled well, with a clear understanding of the earning ratios, who earns higher, who earns less, they can still live within their income and have a very good relationship.
What's your birth order in your family? Are you the firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn?
I am the first.
You're the firstborn. Then this is the perfect question for you.
I am the firstborn.
As a firstborn son, especially. Let's go back to culture. I like to have conversations that have context and meaning. Where we in our landscape. As a firstborn son, how do you navigate in your home the fact that our cultures expect us to support our extended families? How do you, and now you have two families. You have your family and you have your wife's family. I have seen a lot of clashes come in between families because men are taking care of so many of their wives' family, and yet the woman is also complaining that men are taking care of their own families.
So in that particular case, it's very important for the couple to actually sit down and prioritize some of these expenses. To say we both come from our respective families, the extended families. So this year, let us do project A, so that next year, we actually do project B at your home. That way, you'll have more kind of a good relationship, and you're able to manage your money very well. But also to prioritize certain things. For example, if you're going to support the siblings, you could go to the extent of saying, okay, let us support the siblings from their respective homes, where they are. That way you're going to incur school fees and maybe shopping, but not feeding, not accommodation, not water, so that way you reduce the expenses. But sometimes you go into excitement and say, okay, Bambi, okay, bring all of them, and they come, and before you know it, even the chances of conflicting when they're around is higher. But when you say we are going to support you, but stay at home or go to a boarding school, or that will help to actually have the couple manage the expenses. We also need to know that as traditionally people will think, okay, the man should provide each and everything, but you may not be the alpha and omega of some of these things. I was telling people somewhere that you see, even to date, Jesus hasn't been able to solve each and everyone's problems. There are so many. So let us not lie ourselves that as a man or as a woman, you're actually going to solve your family's problems overnight. Instead, have a phased approach of having these needs attended to. So now we are still supporting your sibling, so let us hold on anything else that we want to do, maybe construction of a new house at home. But also let us have that honest conversation, because what happens is that the woman will say, okay, let me do it quietly without him knowing. And the man also says, if I'm going to tell her, now we might have problems in the relationship. So let me also do it quietly so that she doesn't know how much I have spent or supported my family where I come from. But at the end of the day, it is the couple in question that suffers. It is the children that suffer. So it is very important for them to discuss and agree and face those expenses and see how best they can be offset without necessarily suffocating, especially at least financially, the couple. Yeah.
My key takeaway from all of that
Yeah.
is it is okay to love from a distance.
Yes.
I think it's cheaper to love from a distance. You
It
can pay
is.
school fees so that you don't have to really look after the needs that feeding
Exactly.
and transportation
Yes.
and things in the home.
Yes.
I hear
Yes.
you very well. So one last one, since you've talked about children, you know Uganda has one of the highest fertility rates in the world.
Yes.
Yes. To every woman, there are 8 children. So us who have 1 and 2 and
Yes.
3,
Yeah.
there's another woman who has 12 and 16 to
Yes.
cater for you who has 2 and 1.
Yes.
Children are lovely, children are great, children are a joy, they are beautiful.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, they are expensive.
True.
Children are expensive.
They are.
So how can Ugandans and Africans and people in the world all over plan financially for their children?
Okay. Thank you so much. Lately, there are quite a number of products that the couple can take advantage of to actually be able to plan for the children. For example, we have the treasury bond.
Yes.
Treasury bond.
Yes.
You can choose to invest in a treasury bond, which matures after 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yes.
But in between, you're getting a coupon every after 6 months. So the coupon can actually be used to pay school fees because you have to plan for these children, as opposed to think that you'll have that money on the account and it is there, you see it, you feel it. You'll get a temptation to divert that money into other things which are actually not very, very important. But also too, let us train these children to know and realize the value of money and how it is supposed to be handled. Let us teach them the saving culture. Children are so smart, by the way, you'll be surprised.
Yes.
They're smarter than the parents at some point in time. But once you introduce to them managing money at a tender age, they will know the value of money. They will not just spend it anyhow. So that way, the children will be able to use whatever they have sparingly, while knowing that this money has to be managed and used very well. And lastly, again, coming back to the children, the couple needs to prioritize together the kind of services they are giving to their children. Let me talk about education as just one of those key.
Yes.
You've had situations whereby the child, because he feels or she feels that they're closer to the father, they run to the father and say, I want to go to this school. Manipulation. But actually the mother knows that that is far beyond their income. But because the child has connived with the father, so in a one way or another, they end up going to that school. But then that sets the couple to begin struggling financially. You're taking your kid to the best school, but then you're not doing well financially. And I've always told people, Pumla, that a school is only a fraction of factors contributing to the academic excellence of the child. Especially when you come to think about things like responsible parenthood, you know. So it's very important for them to know that as parents they can do their role, but also to look at what they are earning and be able to take their children to appropriate schools where they can afford to look after them and give them a good, other than taking them to an expensive school whereby they're going to be chased away for school fees the following day, or whereby the couple is going to actually begin borrowing to meet that need. Shopping as a family, very important. But teach the children that we must go with a shopping list. And you work together as a family, have that shopping list, and every time the child says, Daddy, Mommy, this one, ask them, is it on the shopping list? If it isn't, then we don't have money. Okay, so that way the children will be able to know that, yes, the needs are really much higher and they cannot be satisfied overnight. So we have to prioritize and spend on very, very critical and important things in our lives.
Okay. One of the key takeaways I got from our financial literacy training classes was that we need to learn how to live within our means. But as we do that, we should also work on expanding those means so that we can be able to afford the things we actually do desire in our lives. Okay, so I just want to close off with a quick segment. I have a quiz for you, Robert, and for our audiences as well. So you can also respond to whatever I say. So these are common money habits in love. So what I'm going to ask Robert and the audience to do, anybody who's watching, is I'll say something and then you tell me if it is a money maker or a money breaker. So a money maker is a good habit. A money breaker is a bad habit. Okay. So are you ready, Robert? And everybody, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So you can just give a quick response, money maker or money breaker, and then just briefly let us know why it is a good or a bad habit. Okay. The first one. What would you say about buying gifts to apologize after a fight?
Buying gifts to apologize after a fight?
Yes.
Money breaker.
Money breaker?
Why? Because it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
That means that every time you pick a quarrel, you fight, you're going to be buying gifts. And that way you may not be able to meet your financial goals as a couple. So I would rather concentrate on mitigating the fights as opposed to
okay, I hear you. Apologies should be heartfelt, not financial.
Absolutely.
Okay, number 2, discussing the household budget every month.
Money maker.
Yay.
Extremely important. Because you have to sit together as a couple and agree what you're going to earn and what you're going to spend. So money maker. Money maker.
So we have one money breaker, one money maker.
Yes.
Number 3, keeping a secret emergency fund.
Keeping... is there an option for it depends?
There is an option for it depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keeping a secret money maker, if it's going to help in achieving the financial goals, especially where it has been hard for the couple to have a joint emergency fund. Simply because maybe the other the spouse is having issues with financial discipline. That way, money maker. But money breaker, if it becomes a habit, and every time keeping money on the side without this person knowing, and the money is even misused. Even during times which do not necessarily not emergency kind of.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I think for this one it does depend.
Yeah, it depends.
Okay. I hope everybody is in touch. Another one, sending mobile money to your partner without them asking.
Wow.
Robert.
Money maker. Why? Because money is partly supposed to make us happy in our relationships. So you don't have to wait for the partner to ask all the time. What? Money maker. Surely.
But maybe just don't overdo it.
Yes. Yes.
Within boundaries.
Sure.
Yeah. I was praying you said money maker.
Yeah.
So that's one. Okay. Another one, we're coming to the end. Borrowing money without telling your partner.
Money breaker.
Money breaker.
Because ultimately it breaks the couple. It could even lead to divorce.
I agree.
Especially when joint property is committed and put as collateral, security. Especially when it affects the spouse's ability to actually meet their obligation in the relationship.
Money breaker, guys. Robert said so. The last one, pulling money together to buy land or build a house as a couple.
Money maker.
Money maker.
And if every couple can do that, trust me, Pumla wouldn't have any stress in relationships. Money maker.
Okay. Thank you so much, Robert, for your insights on love and money. I've always known you're a pro at money. And given your relationship status and how long you've been in this thing, I've also always known that you're a pro at love.
Yes.
But it's an amazing experience to have you combine the two.
Sure.
So thank you so much for your tips and your insights. And to our audience, I just want to remind you, strong relationships are not about how much money you're making. It's really about how well you are working together. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. So if you have found this episode helpful and enjoyable, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with your friends. Don't forget also to subscribe to the BOU YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media platforms for more financial insights and tips. Until next time, that BOU Connects. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.